had the ticket. You know, there's a method where if you get a ticket, just leave it on the show.
No. That's not the I think you don't want like that.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Islam has a huge emphasis on one aspect of our lives that everybody deals with. And this aspect is really our first step, our first opportunity in our lives to accrue and to gain rewards and virtues and blessings and barakah. The aspect is family, because when you're born into a family as a child, that's your first interaction with your parents and your siblings. And as you grow older, your interactions are mainly with your family. So in this way, your family is your first step in showing your character and showing who you are. On family is so large that I can only put together hadith and ayahs. Speaking about Islam's emphasis on just the parents alone would be endless. You couldn't fit it in many khutbahs, just about the family specifically about the parents. We know that it goes past the parents. It goes to the children and the uncles and the aunts and grandmothers and even your in-laws. And Islam elevates and gives a right to all of these people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran describes the people who uphold the ties of kinship and the ones that don't as believers and disbelievers. That's how severe it is. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the believers, the ones who are Muslim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they are the ones who uphold the command of Allah. And what was the command of Allah in this sense? The command was upholding the ties of family, of kinship. And the disbelievers, the ones who are non-Muslim, are described as the ones who cut their ties, their siblings and their parents and their aunts and their uncles. They're literally described as disbelievers. Not to say that if you cut the tie you don't become Muslim, but it's a description of a non-Muslim as one who does not uphold the ties of kinship. The Prophet ﷺ, very early on in Islam, when the message was in its first steps, it was literally a handful of Muslims, Abu Bakr, and just the first few Muslims who just took the Shahada. Somebody came to him, Abu Dhar, and traveled to speak to the Prophet ﷺ. He heard about the message and he came and asked him, what is Islam? What is this message that you're preaching? Can you explain it to me? And the Prophet ﷺ didn't explain it to him saying, these are the 5 pillars, and do this and do that, and this is haram. Very simply, the Prophet ﷺ told Abu Dhar that Islam is stopping the worshipping of idols, so stop committing shirk, worship Allah, and tasil al-arham, uphold the ties of your family. At this point there was no 5 pillars, and this is how early on this command was. It's not a recommendation, it's a command. Every khutbah we began with يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. Every single khutbah, the Prophet ﷺ would always start with that paragraph, and this is one of the ayahs included. O mankind, fear your Lord, fear Allah, who created you from one single soul, and from it created its mate and spread many men and women from the two. Right? We started as a whole, we're a human family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that we started from one, Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and from him everybody else was created. That's the first part of the ayah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلَيْكُمْ رَقِيبًا. And in the second part of this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, first he's saying fear Allah, right? يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ, fear your Rabb. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying fear your Rabb again, but in regard to the ones who are your arham. And arham is like your womb. So fear Allah in regards to your kinship in your womb. In another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correlates His rights. First He mentions fear Allah, then He mentions respect your parents or fear your parents or be obedient to your parents. That's how high this is elevated. The relations of your family are right after you fear Allah and you uphold His rights, and then you uphold the rights of your parents and your family. Right up there with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a hadith, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu reported, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that the word womb or arham, it sounds very similar to the word Rahman. Right? Rahman is one of the names, maybe the greatest name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Arham, Rahim, all of these sound very similar. And we know from the hadith, it's actually hadith Qudsi, that hadith Qudsi means that the Prophet is saying it, but it's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. That word is derived from the name Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. And in the next sentence he says, he who maintains the relations of the womb, of kinship, Allah will maintain him or her. And he who cuts off the ties of the kinship, Allah will cut the relationship with them. Let's look at another perspective, right? We kind of very briefly spoke how Islam emphasizes it. We know that in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us many commandments. And sometimes we question these commandments as to why they were placed on us. Why are the parents so highly elevated? Why is family so important? What's the point of it? And we can look at a human perspective, a sociology perspective. What do humans and scientists have to say about the family? And we can look at this perspective because what Allah has prescribed to us and revealed to us is just now being confirmed by the psychologists and scientists. So what we already knew from before is just being emphasized again by human perspective. We know that the family is, in other words, the building block of communities. And when you have a good, strong family, you bring many strong families together, it builds a strong community. And communities build nations. Right? This is how humans look at it. When you look at the other hand, weak families or broken families, you can have an entire discussion just on this, how detrimental it is to society to have weak and broken families. Families with single parents, those children suffer the most in every single way you can imagine. Mentally, physically, they're less educated, they don't graduate, they're more likely to commit suicide. The list goes on. It all starts with a broken family that cut the ties between their cousins and their uncles and their aunts and their grandmothers. By breaking these bonds, it is the children, of course, the people who are breaking the bonds are affected, but the children who are being raised are affected the most. And when these broken families raise broken children, those children continue that cycle because they don't know any better. So they don't uphold the ties of kinship, and they don't uphold family, and they don't teach their kids family. And this is exactly what is analyzed in America. Broken families create broken children. Those are the ones committing the crimes, and so on and so forth. And we go back to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, that it starts with the family. That is why it was so early on, right? Do not worship idols, worship Allah, and hold your family very strong, very tight, because the family starts the community, and that's where everybody flourishes. Aisha reported, radiallahu anha, خيركم خيركم لأهلي وأنا خيركم لأهلي. The Prophet ﷺ has told us and described that the best of you meaning the best of you in a community, the best of you in the Muslim Ummah, are the ones that are best to their families. Right? He didn't just say these are good people, or this. He said the best, the top of the society are the ones who are best to their family. And as he said of himself, وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي, and I am the best to my family. The Prophet ﷺ is the pinnacle of that, and we know his character, and we know how he treated his family, his wives, and his children, his cousins, everybody. And we know that we have to follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was the best to his family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us the best to our families. Another hadith. We know that Iblis, very shortened version of it, Iblis, when he speaks to his fellow shayateen, his fellow devils, and they come to him and they speak about what they've done, right? Kind of like they're working, and these other devils are giving the Hajj Iblis, the main shaitan, what they did for the day or the week or whatever it may be. And each of these devils will say, I did this and this, I did this and this. And Iblis will tell them that you've nothing, meaning you haven't done enough. And then one of the shaitans will come and will say, what I did was I started a fight between a husband and wife. I put a seed of like fitna between a husband and a wife, between two family members. And Iblis goes and commends this other devil and says, you've done well. And Hadith literally embraces him, right? The Iblis, the head devil, is literally embracing this other shaitan for what? For not causing any other sin, but simply causing division and putting a seed of fitna between two family members. An explanation of this is, if you allow the shaitan to come in between you, your family members, if you allow the shaitan to go to your ego and to make a disagreement between your family even bigger, you're literally, instead of making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy, you're making the shaitan happy. May Allah protect us from this. One last hadith. The Prophet ﷺ tells us a little more detail about what it means to maintain your ties of kinship. It's not enough to maintain the tie of kinship by reciprocating. So for example, your brother says salam to you on Eid, and that's all you do. You just give him salam back. Or your nephew, or whoever it may be, they give you a gift and you give them the same one back. Or they invite you to their wedding and you invite them back. You don't do anything extra. You're just being kind, just like they're being kind. That's not enough. That's not upholding the ties because you're doing it, just maintaining the bare minimum. You're just doing what they're doing. Upholding, the Prophet ﷺ says, the one who truly upholds those ties is the one who does so even through struggle. Even if they're doing the bare minimum, you do more. That's truly upholding. We know in other hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, people came to him and said, my family's doing this and this. They insulted me, harassed me, or they spoke bad about me. They're creating all this fitna between me and them. You still have to maintain the ties. It does not matter what they did to you. It will always be on you to. We know all of these hadith, and yet, unfortunately, I'll speak on my subcontinent, that people will break the ties of kinship, between uncles and aunts, simply because of a missing wedding invitation, or somebody was invited and didn't show up, and now brother and sister stop talking to each other for their entire lives. This is the exact opposite of what Islam has taught us. And you can give more and more examples. I'm sure everybody has problems in their family between anybody. But we have to look at those problems and remember that the Prophet ﷺ has told us to be better, to be more, to be the best to your family. Give back to them with goodness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very clearly in the Quran, and we know in Islam, in the Day of Judgment, you will only be asked about yourself. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you about your family, He will not ask you, what did your sister do to you, or did they insult you? Okay, you're fine. They insulted you, you have a pass. You don't have to maintain those ties. No, you won't be asked about her or him. You will be asked about what you did. You will never, ever, ever be asked about what somebody else did. So your excuse when it comes to maintaining your family, what did you do on the Day of Judgment? قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Very quick recap of the points. The ties of kinship and family are one of the greatest commandments. And again, it's not a recommendation, it's a command. Just like we're commanded to pray. A commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to maintain your family. And that includes everyone in your family, especially your blood relatives. And it is one of the first commandments, so the oldest and one of the greatest commandments. We know the benefits from the human perspective, from sociology, that families build communities, and strong families build strong communities, and weak ones break down society. That one of the descriptions of being a non-Muslim kafir is the one who cuts the ties of his family. May Allah protect us from being described like this. And lastly, maintain your side. You can't control what anybody else does. Maintain your part, your duty. Your duty is to maintain your family. You do that part. Because on the Day of Judgment, you will only be asked about yourself on the Day of Reckoning. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون واذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم واستغفروه يغفر لكم واتقوه ويجعل لكم من أمركم مخرجا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين اجمعين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الآخرة حسنه وقنا عذاب النار ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذرياتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما. We make dua for all the Muslims who passed away, and specifically Jalal, who gives khutbahs here. His uncle in California has passed away, so may Allah forgive him and have mercy upon him and grant him the highest level of Jannah. And Brother Samih Dardona, who was a staple here, who's been here for a very long time and moved. His father passed away. May Allah forgive him, have mercy upon him, and grant him the highest level of Jannah. Welcome to Salam.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا